2-hour show tonight, so we gotta get going.
Yeah, we do have quite a lot of material to cover. We pushed this last meeting off twice now. Obviously, like, life happens and no one's upset and it's totally fine and like we're gonna make it work.
Damn hurricane!
But we finished.
Yeah, this piece of shit's done before end of October.
I mean, I don't think it's a piece of shit, but I do understand the. Yeah, like we did it. Like congratulations. We may start the Wolves of the Kala this year, if not finish it this year. So.
Oh, we just got to win through the keyhole, right?
Yeah, and that one's going to be maybe like a 2-week, 3-week journey at the most.
Okay.
And then we'll have like a month and a half almost to bust through the beginning part of Wolves of the Kala.
I'm ready to clap that ass.
That's going to be an ass worth clapping. Let me... For sure.
I hope so, because we're a Wizarding Glass left.
Say it again.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and so like we're definitely going to get there.
I know.
Tam said, "Whose ass is getting clapped?"
Thunder.
Well, just yeah.
It's in the afterword. I will say no more.
I mean, they also mention it quite a few times towards the end as well when they talk about Roland's journey in the ball. So it is not an unknown name at this point. Thunderclap is a place. There was a picture actually at the end drawn on a piece of paper of a thunderbolt coming out of a rain cloud. So definitely we'll get there. I don't know how many P-Pops. Is there a P-Pops?
She did say that she had something come up.
Well, I did see her.
Yeah, right at the end. Yeah.
Setting herself up on
get reset up. Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Hello.
Buddy, pal, friend. You finished?
Not all the way.
Okay, I just don't want to spoil it for you. So
I got pretty far. Made my notes. Hang on. Got to. Roland finished the story. That's where I got to.
Okay. It's totally cool if you want to. When we get to the next part, you can just pop out or hang out and just listen to our bullshit. It's completely up to you. But
we're not going to spoil everything with the recap. We're just going to like gloss over.
But we are definitely going to go through it. So
I did what I could, but
it's all good.
It's all good.
Just you are fairly warned. Our recap is not going to be half as good as what he wrote.
Okay.
Also, welcome, and I'm so glad you were able to power through that shit like nobody's business.
No doubt.
Yeah, 2-hour.
Real.
Well, hang on. Lunch break during this week has been very helpful.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually when I do a lot of my reading too. Is when I'm on lunch break. I will be usually about 25 minutes every day. I'll put that in. Like, plus, you know, I'll do some reading before I go to bed. Usually, maybe like 20-30 minutes there too. It's actually very easy for me to get through. At least until like these last couple weeks, because that shit was that was a lot. That was a lot. But at the same time, like I didn't want to stop, so it was easy to get through. It was just a bunch of reading.
Yeah, it was a bunch of reading, and really, I had an audit at my company, so that all last week I couldn't read it all. I had to prep for that thing. That was not fun.
Did you get to read The Gunslinger?
The original one?
Yeah, the first one?
Yeah, I've read Gunslinger, Drawing of 3, and I'm almost done with this is book 3.
Wizarding Glass? Oh, with The Wasteland.
Wasteland, yes, The Wasteland, yes. I finished that one.
And then you're almost done with Wizarding Glass, which is numero 4.
Yeah, it should be done by next week sometime.
Yeah. It's you said if you just got to the end of Roland's dream,
yeah,
you're pretty well got things pretty figured out.
Yeah, and that's like I said, that was during lunch.
I get an hour commute both ways. So I'm like, oh, reading's done in like a day or 2 days.
Yeah, I'd love to, but my library doesn't have a copy of Wizard of Glass audiobook, and I can't find one on YouTube before it gets yanked.
I've been posting them up on the Discord channel.
Yes.
Okay. Keep forgetting about that.
You can always just like click on one and download it.
If you have an iPhone, it's best to use Vox.
Vox?
Probably because the player's weird.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where did we start? Did we
Who was
start?
that?
Yeah, what was that?
What, chapter
Gosh.
8? The
Yeah.
Ashes? That's where we started. It's been so long now.
Oh my gosh.
My camera just
Give me a
went dead.
page number, Sneak.
657.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We got some legs to
That's what we were supposed to be discussing tonight. So we are going to very much paraphrase here.
Doesn't help that I also left my copy at my desk at work. So
You're good.
Yeah.
Just go off your
Yeah.
memories.
No, the way this... Yeah. We do a really cool recap, and then we usually get into the deep. But what about this? After. Really good.
Well, we started off where Susan is confronted for one of the last times by Aunt Cordelia, Miss Oh So Young and Pretty. That phrase
It was
stuck
the
with me.
ashes.
That phrase stuck with me a lot. Yep, she smears ashes on her and says, "I curse thee with the ashes. I curse thee to darkness, both of thee. Be ye happy together, ye faithless, ye murderers, ye cozeners, ye liars, ye fornicators, ye lost and renounced." And then Susan does something which I thought was pretty neat. She grabbed some ashes and slapped her back. It kind of reminds me of, like, you know that part of, like, the professional wrestling match where they both have microphones and they're just kind of talking like shit to each other.
Oh yeah, the trash talk.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's happening here, but it's like ancient, like ritualized trash talk.
Okay, kind of.
It's very much the same concept here. She's pretty much cursing her, and they go their separate ways after that. Susan is on her way back and gets captured. Doopy-doopy-doo.
It was sad. So sad.
Yeah, she doesn't get captured till like much further down the road there. I believe it is actually Rhea and DePape who get her.
Yeah,
because they're on their way to Seafront to do their to do their thing. So, at this point, we have. Trying to make sure I don't just jump over important stuff.
Check your input and output depops.
I'm trying to remember that if I have the right. I don't think she gets captured right there.
No, she doesn't. She lets the guys out of jail.
Oh yeah, that's what starts out first.
Yeah.
She's releasing the boys.
After they have
from
their
the
ash
jail.
fight, right, she makes her way back into town. She's supposed to grab Roland's guns and leave. Remember that? Like that.
Yeah,
Was,
she's supposed to go back to see his father.
that was the plan. Was she was going to go and take care of all that shit. So, of course, she makes a different decision, and she does what I've probably seen 1,000 times on really crappy westerns on like cable television, where she sneaks in dressed up.
Or TV.
Yeah, they use something for distraction. She has Shimi like drop some firecrackers. She whips her serape back, and of course she's like got them at gunpoint. She ends up having to kill somebody, which kind of sticks with her, and breaks our boys out of jail.
Dave's not here, man.
Yeah, Dave got killed. She knew him like her entire life.
Dave's done for.
Yep. And we always
Fuck
felt
this
Dave
story.
was the one that was just kind of going along with things, and he was never a main player in it.
Sure, yeah.
We didn't wish death on him.
The breakout was actually really kind of facilitated by Shimi, who is becoming more and more involved in our actions here. He's helping pretty much everyone at this point do pretty much everything. I believe...
And while she was breaking out the boys, like the townspeople were gathered. I guess they've been drinking for a couple days, and the main perpetrators in town were kind of setting up the townspeople with what kind of crimes were going on.
Yeah, the boys decide they're going to go through with their plan. The first thing they do is they blow up the oil derrick. It is like the source of like where the oil is from. They go ahead and blow that, and then that kind of like is noticeable by everyone very, very far away. Huge explosions, lots of fire, big billows of smoke. It's an obvious issue. Thank you, Canned. Boom, there we are.
Whoops, wrong button. This was a lot of shit going on right here.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things kind of coming together, and I'm trying not to miss any of it. The plan ends up being where, even though they had to break out from jail, they're still trying to stick to the original idea. They want to.
So they're just setting it up at
Yes.
this next part, right?
They want to make sure that they get the oil derrick because, like I said, that's the source of the oil. They want to blow it right away. That kind of lets everyone know that something's happening. That gives them a chance to get all set up and ready. Jonas and his pals are getting ready. They're pretty much...
Yeah, Jonas is for real getting ready.
Yeah, they're... he's in the middle of something when the oil derricks go off.
He didn't hear the first one, that's for sure.
Doesn't stop him from completing his task. And from there, the boys are waiting. Elaine is like using his gift. He's listening. He's prepared to alert them when he knows that Jonas is on his way. He's trying to figure out what's going to happen next. The idea ends up being that they let them pass them in the tall grass, and they come back around them. They kind of flank them, and they work their way up the line from the back. And it's actually,
It was really well done.
yeah, like that's an insane plan. But it comes off pretty well. They pretty much just rip their way through it. But before they can spring the trap, Jonas kind of knows something's wrong, and he goes back. He's kind of like whispered to by Rhea, and she gives him another idea. So he sends the men, but stays back himself. And after they spring the ambush, he survives because he is not there. Of course, Rhea got her crooked finger in everything here. Jonas, however, goes and captures Susan. They miss capturing Shimi because he's taking a doo-doo in the ditch. and doesn't he's kind of overlooked anyways. And that just kind of puts him completely out of harm's way. Jonas captures and sends Susan with Reynolds back to Mayor's house. Everyone there pretty much is convinced that the murders were done by Roland and company, and they're going to send Susan back along with the ball. That's one of the important things going on here is who's in possession of that thing. I believe, if I'm not wrong, Jonas takes it at gunpoint, doesn't he? He he has to pull his gun on her, and he takes the ball from her, and that's when she starts her little campaign with the rest of town.
I was just glad that Shimi got away.
Shimi definitely got away. At this point, Jonas takes the ball and kicks her out. And then he wants to keep the ball, of course.
That's whenever they start to move.
Through the bad grass?
Yeah, they start to move. Shimi follows them to town. They drop off Susan at the mayor's house, and then they're on the move. Jonas commands to get all the riders. Let's go do this now. And he's like, we can have 24, but there'll be 40 coming up behind them.
Yeah, there's 150 men pretty much going to be involved in this ambush, and they're saying against 3 boys, let's take our chances. They want to get there before they blow up the actual tankers.
And he doesn't even give a shit who they are, if they're really gunslingers, if they're just these little snot-faced kids.
Yes.
Don't give a shit. He's like, let's fucking go.
This is when the ambush happens. One of my favorite parts here is they pretty much taunt the entire group of men to follow them into the box canyon. And we, of course, know what they counted in the box canyon, 1 thinny. They've also got a little bit of a brush fire trap set up to kind of block the entrance to the canyon. And their plan is to have them blindly charge in, not knowing what the thinny's going to do. They climb out the side of the canyon, that little crook part that they were talking about when they first noticed it. They climb out of the side of the canyon. The brush fire, of course, traps the men into the other side of the box, pretty much boxes them in. The thinny eats what it can. Everyone else burns to death.
I mean, there was a lot of shit that went in there.
Goes off almost perfectly. The amount of carnage that 150 horse-bound men can create, you're talking the thinny first of all. Then you got the fire, the brush fire that's smoky and blocking everybody up. Plus, everyone's kind of being mentally attacked by just being close to it. Yeah. So it's just a huge clusterfuck, and
yeah, we almost lose some things. One person definitely loses the toe of their boot.
Yeah, Bert got real close. As this is going on, Rhea is approaching Susan's Aunt Cordelia, and they're conspiring.
That whole fucking scene.
She drinks her blood.
Yes.
And
from a belly.
Revitalizes herself.
Delicious.
Very, very gross.
She's like, you know what I need, Cordelia.
Of course she does.
Oh, I hear a P-Pops. It's super quiet, but I hear it.
Wrong time to shut up.
Hey, P-Pops.
Wrong time to.
Goodbye, P-Pops. Hello, P-Pops.
What the hell?
She clicked the wrong button.
She is P-Popsing all over the place.
I'd hit unmute just as I was
hitting the hang up button.
I'll show them. I'll hang up and mute.
No, sometimes when I turn on the camera, it closes out Discord on me.
Discord be a little janky.
There's
sometimes.
a really cool scene where we have Roland and Jonas kind of have their face off. Jonas has the ball and threatens to smash it. Roland, being Roland, of course, shoots him in the hand, vaporizing his palm, leaving only fingers that twitch their random way out of a spongy red mass. The ball drops, and of course Roland's right there to catch it.
So damn sly. Just like deft. He caught it like between his fingers, didn't he?
He's very good at what he does.
He caught it in the crook of an arm. He pretty much just like swooped it, like a football catch.
Yeah.
I don't know, but when I read that part, I remember reading that part, and it just brought me back to the drawing of the three, where that New York gangster tried to shoot Eddie, and Roland shot him, and they just basically describe how the gun blew up.
That was Jack Andolini.
Jack Andolini.
And they were just describing how basically it was like it could never be redone.
Oh yeah, this dude pretty much had like fingers sticking out of a wet red sponge. That's when Roland blew his head off. I believe he said what point blank rounds into Jonas's face.
That was pretty descriptive.
Yeah, that pretty much means that they've won.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, all the bad guys are gone, right?
Well, as soon as Roland gets a hold of the ball, what does he do?
Looks into
Takes
it
the
like shit.
fucking thing out.
He puts
of
his
the
face
bag.
right in it.
Like,
Yep.
what's this do?
Oh, man.
Pretty much.
It's at this point where we kind of go back into town. They're setting up a reaping fair like none have ever seen. At least not recently.
Never mind.
Right.
Never mind. They had a barbecue this year.
Well, it definitely had some delicious springtime or fall time.
All-time long pig.
Oh, long pig. I was trying to think what they called it. Long pork, yeah. But Rhea pretty much steps up and says, like, hey, this is what's happening. We're all going to be part of this, and hopefully you guys have fun. They've been saying
He's
a
still
phrase.
riding around in that fucking cart.
Yes. She is kind of like a weird snake oil salesman. But they've been saying this phrase that they've been saying char you tree. And we've heard the word char before when we were talking about Charlie the Choo-Choo, and how in Roland's high speech the word char means death. There's also kind of been allusions so far in the story of kind of like the old ways, like their like heathen beginnings almost for this town, and their traditions go way back. and one of the traditions is they call them stuffy guys. We would call them scarecrows, but they paint their hands red and they throw them into the reap fire, the reap bonfire at their reap fest, and that has a kind of ominous beginning. That tradition started with actual human sacrifice on Reap Night, and Rhea kind of wakes up the community and like feeds into that hate that she's been sucking, that she's been like given like by the ball, and she uses that power over these people to kind of convince them to do what's
it feeds off misery. It feeds off misery. The ball, I think they mention it actually, that it feeds off misery.
Well, Susan gets unexpected help from somebody. It is the mayor's wife. She, I don't know if it's quite like takes pity. I'm not sure what her motivations are, but I think she understands like that Susan really isn't responsible. And she makes it kind of. Sorry, I'm having volume issues over here. It's getting loud. Yeah, she makes it easy for Susan to escape. She even helps her like leave the mayor's house. She like finds some reason to get the guards off of her door, and she escapes with her into this shack by the sea. Of course, Shimi helps once again. There's our friend Shimi. Roland's stuck in. He's stuck in the ball. He talks about how previously how it's like if it feels like traveling. He was like traveling in the ball. He sees a lot of stuff. The ball shows him a lot of things, and there's almost like a bit of fate going on here, because the ball offers him a choice. The life he has now, or dedicate himself to finding the tower. And he gives up Susan. He gives up their possibly unborn child. He gives up that life and dedicates himself to finding the Dark Tower. This is when like the quest began for him.
Mm-hmm.
So big kind of like major choice, and he makes it like without hesitation. And some of the justifications for that is obviously going to be the big kind of overarching, like more like noble kind of choices, which is obviously like, I want to save existence. I will sacrifice my happiness if I can stop the worlds from moving on.
But at the time, that was because the ball had showed him that Susan had been, safe and everything. Because he was still upset, but he was glad that she was probably going to be safe. She would have been fine.
Yeah.
Should have.
I think it also.
That movie.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It kind of leans to the point that, for the saving existence. Take two. Saving existence, I will throw you under the bus is pretty much what leads towards his friends and stuff. That's the way I took it.
Mm-hmm.
Because his past actions, especially with what happened with Jake in the first book, he's like, sorry, but I gotta go talk to this guy in black.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can understand, like, the nobility of, like, well, this is bigger than any of us, but it's also like, yeah, but I'm the one that's getting screwed here. So it's kind of like, do you take it that way.
I think it was more of a because when he realized that it's either all of existence, he's got to do this thing because if something happens, everybody's fucked, or like his thought was Susan would be heartbroken, but she wouldn't be alone. She'd find somebody, blah blah blah, whatever. She'd be okay. So it was still a hard choice, but I think more of a if he doesn't do this, nobody else will, and everything's fucked.
You've also got to understand he's 15 years old, and while he's made it as a gunslinger and he's kind of become a man in more ways than one during the story, he's also still very kind of naive, and this kind of epic, like heroic, romanticized kind of quest really appeals, I think, to that like younger part of him. It kind of like wakes up like idealistic thoughts and like like values and virtues and like the things that he holds right, and it like resonates with him because it's one of those things where he's been raised to think that that's what a gunslinger does. And he like throws himself wholeheartedly into it. And it's like it's a very kind of polarizing moment where there's things that happen before and then there's things that happen after, but this event is a huge shift in like what he's doing with his life. While this is happening, of course, Susan gets caught. The boys are using the stolen machine gun, and they're cleaning up house where the actual tankers are being stored. They make their way there. They kill the men who are there. And then blow those tankers up as well. At this point, they've taken out every bit of it. This is all the rest of the men, all of the tankers, and the oil derrick where it came from. They've pretty much wiped all of it off the map now, and it pretty much fucks with John Farson's plans immensely.
But if that oil would have made it out, Lud would have been very different.
Lots of things could have been different. But also, keep in mind, doesn't stop anything. Roland's main goal here is that ball, though. Very specifically, his father mentioned it. Super important, and that's his main focus. So that's what everyone's kind of focused on. Roland has it, but he's lost in it. Every chance he gets, he jumps back into it. Very kind of like Frodo Baggins with the One Ring kind of vibes here, where he can't. Almost like Rhea, almost like Jonas, like it's
he can't quite help it.
Yes, he's just drawn to it.
It's very impulsive.
So the first time he looks into it, it's right after he kills Jonas. He sees the Dark Tower, gets his mission, and then the next time he looks into it is after the Thinny, and that's whenever he sees
other things.
Yes.
Well, Susan does end up dying. Very gruesome. Like burning sounds like one of the worst ways to go.
Yeah, I would think so.
There was a moment where they talk about the crowd kind of came to almost and realized what they were doing, but it was at that point too late to stop.
I feel like they were almost in a trance. I feel like it was kind of Rhea that kind of had them doing what they were doing.
I'm gonna have to agree as well. Yeah.
Fully see what was going on until all of a sudden it was like, because originally it was her aunt. They were in the earlier. She had given some sort of must be quest for the aunt to do, which was get everybody together to make Susan seem so bad to burn her like they did. So I feel like everyone was kind of under a spell because of Rhea doing whatever she did with her aunt.
I think Cordelia, I think that she was already so close, she just didn't have that push, and that's all that Rhea did. She
worked herself up to 90% of the
and she was
motivation.
Rhea just gave her the
snapped.
Yep.
Yeah. She's like,
Okay,
you're
sure.
you're validated. Everything you were thinking,
Because she had
it's
promised
valid.
she had promised her revenge. You know, she's like, you'll get revenge, or you'll give me, or you'll seek revenge. I don't remember how she worded it, but what it was do this thing for me, and I'll help you get, you know, your revenge, one way or
Yeah.
another. It was a while back.
What's that?
So, sorry.
Well, Roland is seeing all this happen in the ball, and they didn't know how to get him off of it. They knew it's not good for him, and they knew it's hurting him. So Cuthbert does what Cuthbert does, and he pulls a gun on it. he points it like right at the ball, point blank, and the ball turns off. Like, okay, all right, yeah, you win this round.
All I can think of is like whack-a-mole. You know how like right before you hit it, like the shit ducks away. That's all I could think of. Is it was like, oh shit, serious.
Well, at this point, because they know what happened, they throw Roland over the side of the horse. They collect the ball in the drawstring, and then they just head home. They leave it all behind them and make their way home.
Roland was broken right
Yes.
there.
Yes.
He was fucking wiped
He is
out.
at this point. He is in the ball if he's not asleep. And
I had all kinds of thoughts of where this adventure was going at that point.
yeah, at this point, we reach part 4 where we come out of the story, and we begin the next section. Now, before we do that, I'd like to have this discussion now.
Yeah.
The plan all came together, and a lot of people died, and including one of our favorites. I know it's Tam Tam's favorite. Poor Susan Delgado.
Miss Young and Pretty.
Did you
Oh, so
celebrate,
young and pretty.
Tam Tam?
I
Were you,
did
like,
feel
good?
bad. At
I
that
felt
point,
bad
I
for
felt bad because, like, they were just kids. It was annoying, but they were just kids, and there was really no reason for all of it other than he shouldn't have killed her snake. Had he not killed her snake, had he not killed Rhea's snake, it wouldn't have been this bad. That mistake bit him.
I don't know if I believe that. I think that may have been like a very easy kind of like thing for her to pin that on, but someone took her ball.
Yeah, that
And,
too.
and I think if she found anybody in possession of it, she would do the same thing to them.
Well, she said, "Are you done yet? Are you, sorry for killing my poor." I can't remember the name of her damn
Ermit.
snake.
Vermont.
Yeah.
Irma. So
but
it was.
but I think that because of her history with Susan,
True, that
that's what kind of compounded her into like that extra step that kind of also drove her over the edge.
hmm
Because if it was just him, like telling her to like leave him alone, then like no big deal. But like she was so entrenched in the entire drama with Susan that that kind of stacked up and made it like a lot more difficult for her to just let it go. And I think that those two things together is really what made it to where she went above and beyond.
Well,
That
and
is
don't forget, Roland had blocked her when Susan was trying to cut her hair too.
Right.
So
Yes.
that was also part of motivation.
And she
He was
sassed
sick of
her
his shit.
back in the cottage at the beginning.
Damn kids don't know how to respect anybody. I'll teach you. Pretty
Well,
much what it was.
If you take the long view here, like 3 city boys rolled into town and murdered almost 200 people within 6 months.
Yes.
And only one of them died.
And it was all on one day.
I mean, that's best laid plans, right?
But the amount
all of
of
the day's
like
work.
alliteration to flame and fire the Susan throughout this entire book, like her golden hair was a flame in the sunset or whatever. It was like
I never picked that up.
There's a
it's
lot
all
of it.
there.
There's a lot of
It's
it.
all there.
I just know something from this. It's like Roland just needs to stay the hell out of cities because everyone he goes to, except for that
I
one,
know he has
outside
to
of
kill
Lowe,
like almost everybody or everybody.
or you know the damn hamburgers because that's basically what they described after he slaughtered everybody in the first book. He's like, I killed everybody. I'm gonna go get a hamburger.
I drank 4 beers and ate 5 hamburgers. Yeah.
And I killed 13 kids.
That's
It's a
some
great
thirsty
day.
work.
The only one he spared was that
terrible.
that small settlement outside of Lud. They try to describe him about the
River crossing.
River crossing.
Yeah.
yes,
River
that was
crossing.
Those people were
that's the
too
only
old to
one.
kill
But he
them.
basically ate all their food.
With Aunt Talitha? Yeah.
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 The other thing, like I said, you probably just ate. They all ate.
I bet they're gonna come back.
They ate all their food. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ate all the
For me, after experiencing Roland getting pulled into the ball a couple times, it seemed like it pulled him hard. And when they took him away on horseback, I started to think about this story and things that I was thinking that Roland was still in the ball when he was telling the story to his friends.
I was going to ask you that. Like you thought that from that point on, he's all in his mind.
That he wasn't actually there just because of the crazy shit that had happened with doors and everything else and meeting these people. I was thinking that he was just in his mind, stuck roaming around in the ball.
I bet
after
the
the
same. I bet he wishes that too.
The same way the Gunslinger ended, with the 10-year sleep.
You know, okay.
There's still some things that aren't quite clear anyways, right? Because how does he know this story as well as he does, right?
But that
because of thinning.
That is clear though, because he mentions that after like those days of him writing and like a couple days after like coming home, he was in the ball the whole time, but the ball showed him all the different angles of the story because the ball wants him to know like how like perfectly it countered all of his moves. You know, like just how much misery it was able to deal out.
How he really didn't have a choice in any of it was going to happen.
Yeah, and like the worst thing for him was to survive, right? Like, like the worst possible outcome for Roland was not to die in any of that stuff, but to like live through it.
But watch everyone else die and suffer.
Is it still Ka?
Is it?
I mean, it could also be seen as like no matter how many plans or whatever he tried to plan, I'll counter it.
Yeah.
It's like you will survive, but probably gonna be alone.
It's a little weird to be like foiled by a crystal ball. Go ahead, Kane.
Nope, because I was about to move into the next section. No.
Oh! You mean the next book section? No, we're not quite there yet.
We're not doing
I almost feel like the death of Susan was almost downplayed a little bit. Like it was.
To me, it was like a romance, like the end of a romance. Like,
yes, there was a lot less.
Where she was in her
expect.
head. She was in her head. She didn't. She knew it was there, but she wasn't there.
Yeah.
But by the time they had her on the cart, she had given up.
She already knew.
Sorry, Modus. Go.
Oh man, I was just gonna say, you know, if you read the afterword, I think this is King really trying to write what is the ultimate thing that could draw someone away from their passion, right? Like, maybe not like that, but like, love is the thing that can steer your course in a different direction, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the argument that's being, well, at least it's tried here, is that love is this like all-powerful force, but you know, and then all of a sudden, like, it's the Roland we know. Like,
see, yeah,
I think
so.
Yeah, that's what I mean by downplaying her death. It's like all of a sudden just, Dark Tower, I gotta go.
So, what I kind of gathered from that is like, even something as pure as like first love isn't worth keeping to Roland. He would rather find the Dark Tower than anything else. And like Ka put that romance in his path to test him and see if that he was willing to give that up. Also,
that's what I was thinking, is the fact that like all this stuff that's happened in his life is really just a test of his resilience. Can he do this? Is he willing to do this? What he's willing?
Every time so far, every option that he's had, he's constantly has always chosen the tower.
But like, if he doesn't choose it, who will?
That might be like part of his reasoning, right? Like,
exactly, because he's supposed to be like the last of his kind, supposedly. One of the last of his kind. If nobody else is going to do it, I mean, he's kind of got to, and it feels as though it's this sense of duty, and if he fails on this, everything's fucked.
It's kind of interesting how we've given the ball almost a character of its own, saying it's driving this, but it's almost an instrument of something else.
I feel like the ball is alive in its own way. I really do. I feel like
you think it has
because
its own
the
will?
way the way, yeah, its own will, because the way that it didn't show Roland everything the first time he looked into it, because he thought Susan was going to be okay, and then kind of went, oh, okay, well, here's what you want to see, here's what you need to see, and then later on it showed him the rest of it, because it didn't want him to, like, I don't know, it needed him motivated, but then it also needed him to know the truth, if that makes any sense.
I thought there was some obscurity too in how he viewed it. I almost read it as if, it was all there, but it directed him towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm backing you up. Keep going. Girl.
Yeah, because when I was listening to it, because I listened to it, and the way that they said it, the tone in which they said it in, was like, it was almost like, not quite a trick, but it was just enough for Roland to feel comfortable to continue with what he was doing, to get the job done, to get him through.
Because like if
Dedicated.
if he decided that Susan's in danger, then he would have changed, made different choices.
Yes.
And the ball wanted it to be a certain way, so it showed him what he needed to see at
Just
that
enough.
point to like do what it wanted without worrying about anything else. And then as soon as it was turned around and turned into a weapon, it showed him the truth.
Yep. That's what I feel like.
So it's like making choices. Like the
this
ball
is
itself.
your end.
There you go.
Don't forget, somebody brought that ball into town to set off the series of events.
Yeah, it was that guy Latigo, and he brought it to.
And we know
Jonas.
who he works for.
He works for
He
John
knew.
Farson.
And he knew what the ball did, because when they
Right.
went to get the ball from Rhea, he's like,
And John
you
Farson,
might.
they mentioned he knows how bad the ball is. He uses it, but then he gets rid of it because he knows it's going to like attach itself to him. So he was just in one of those cycles where he probably looked and figured some shit out and then sent it away.
Mm-hmm. And he probably also
Probably went
knew
on a
that the
2-week
ball could be
bender.
tricky.
Well, then like they
And then
finished their
probably went on a
business
2-week
in
bender.
that town, and he called the ball back, and that's why everything's happening all at once right now. That's kind of
Because
what
he also wanted something from that town.
Yes. So here we are at the end of it all, and why do you think Roland told that story? Like what is the point?
So that they can see as to why he's given up everything he has so far, and why he's so obsessed with the tower.
Is it
Overall,
kind of a
to see
this
where
is
he
what
is.
I've already sacrificed, so I'm gonna make it worth it in the future kind of a thing, or
Kind of a glimpse of what's
this is
happened.
what I'm willing to do? Is how far I'm willing to go?
What happened with his original Kata, you know how sometimes history repeats itself? I'm kind of hoping it doesn't, obviously, but I think with the whole everything going on, he just felt as though it was necessary. That they can see where his mindset is as to why he thinks the way that he thinks, why he worries the way that he does, and why it's easy for him to give things up. Not really easy, but why he's able to make that hard choice of, you know what, I've got to do this.
I think Jake
That's
already
what I feel like.
understands that.
Yeah. I feel like
Go ahead.
I feel like we've established that in book 3. We had that conversation where everyone was like, Dark Tower? Dark Tower. What does this give us that didn't? And I think that's the hey, everyone that's coming with me, die.
Well, the way that they mentioned about the Dark Tower was the fact that if the Dark Tower crumbles and something about the roses around it, that's the end of everything. Because that's what they had mentioned that he saw was the Dark Tower. If it crumbles, the world's basically over with. So he's got to get there before that happens. Or at least that's what the ball insinuated. I don't know. I haven't read farther than that. And that's where I think he needed them to see was that's what he saw was if he doesn't do this, it's, because before it was, they just knew the tower existed. They knew the tower was something important. They didn't really know what the tower was.
They had dreams about it.
Exactly. But then when Roland finally put it out, that's what it is and how important it is. I think that's what they needed to see was how dedicated he's going to be and needs to be and how dedicated he's been and the reason why. It isn't just some, thing just to get to some damn tower, but there's more to it than just the tower.
I think that it was a little bit. I mean, it was exactly that, but they needed to. Roland was a new gunslinger, just like they are new gunslingers. and that's what his journey was, and what makes it so important.
Oh, they also
to be done, but he held off telling all these stories because they each needed to experience being a gunslinger. They had to remember the faces of their father before he could share this, and they could connect with it.
I think also it was setting the scene for this is how it started. You know what I mean? Like, not just, oh, I decided I'm a gunslinger and I'm going after Tower. That's how he got his mission to begin with. Is what
the
I
question
think
that we've
is the
been
reason
asking
why.
for the last 3 fucking books.
Why are you going after it, and how did you hear about the Dark Tower, and
Also, how the
stuff
world
like that.
got to be the way it is as we were looking at it, too.
And how long have you been going after this thing?
All right, I got 2 points I want to bring up. One to P-Pops, but I'm not going to go look it up for hard evidence, but somewhere in there, Roland talks about how it's been centuries.
That's the next part.
Shit. All right, we'll get there.
You'll look it up.
It's there.
Second part. Is Shimi a gunslinger? I put him in there. I think he's badass.
I mean, he was sawing fucking logs, and then he fucking had the intuition. I bet he has a little bit of the touch.
What makes a gunslinger?
I think so too. I also feel like Shimi was very smart. He's simple, but that also made him very smart at the same time. He might have seemed dumbed down to some people, but he paid attention to things, and he
Got it right.
The perfect
connected
end.
dots that other people didn't, because he could focus on different things than other people do.
He's also
He's
invisible.
part of the Tet for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's invisible.
He could
Takes up
definitely
a
see
whole
around the corners.
Yeah, well, no one saw him though, right? Like he
Yeah.
was there,
Because nobody
Invisible.
cared.
but no one really saw him. So he was free to move the whole time, to just move about.
And he didn't make a big deal, but he always heard things and saw things because of that.
Yeah.
And here's my last point. We stopped talking about castles because the castles was even a chapter.
Mhm.
We've kind of stopped talking about it since then in terms of like the cat and mouse game of Jonas and Roland. But I think there's some parallels between what Jonas is up to, like totally just with his pants down, having fun, not really thinking about the consequences, where it lands him, because he thinks the game's over. And really, this whole time he's out, on his hill. I just think that's that whole part.
He's
I was like, man.
definitely out from around the side of his hillock.
But they both played it similarly. But it's up to that point, I think, where
You really start to see it whenever Roland realizes who he is.
Jonas.
And then that feud
yes,
between them.
yes, because Jonas is almost a gunslinger, and he will always be almost, right?
He's always in the West, no matter where he goes. He's always.
And then Roland threw that at him
Mhm.
Yeah.
and made him real upset and thinking about that.
What'd y'all think about that little smack in the face? I mean, I was like, "Oh shit!" Oh,
Jonna.
it threw me up. It was like that moment where all the people around you, "Oh shit!"
Mhm.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the next part. Just a fair warning, zombie dust bunny. This is the part you haven't read. So if you'd like to
and
stick
P-Pops,
around
right?
and hang through it, that's totally fine. But
Oh no, you
Yeah,
got yours
that.
done.
Yeah, I got mine done.
we'll
The
go
second part was really easy to finish, but for some reason the week before that seemed to like go on for like fucking ever. And then like the next week I was like, okay, this is gonna take me hours to finish these like 6 or 7 sections, and then it only took me like doing dishes.
Short chapters.
Sorry, as you were saying, Evan. Didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah. Stupid ass.
So, Dust Bunny's good to go.
I'm good. I'll stay for now.
All right.
We start off. It's back in the real world. We're in Kansas again, and Roland finishes his story like as the morning dawns.
Everybody tries to start to stretch, and they expect to pop, and there ain't shit.
Yeah, everyone expects like I'm sure we've all been to a place where you've been listening to a story, or you've been watching something, or you've just been spellbound by something, and not realize how much time has passed. I don't know if that's ever happened for an entire night, and like honestly, like it took us like hours and hours and hours to get through the story. So I know that it was like some form of magic, I would say.
I think so, because they said it was only a night. I think,
Yeah.
but it felt.
And no one even
longer.
really feels it. Like they stayed up all night, and and they're still like fresh and they feel good. I didn't know he was so good at self-portraits.
Oh God. Oh, that's cute. I think I'm gonna just paint mine this year.
That's what we usually do. We usually paint it first and then we carve it. Like
The
when
kids
it's
have been
closer to
bugging
season.
me. Kids have been bugging me about getting them. I'm like, dude, it's Florida. You gotta get them like the night before Halloween and then throw them out like the night after.
Especially down in that heat. Sure.
It's not like New York where you can just let it freeze on the porch and it's good until Thanksgiving.
We just learned that the hard way.
So let me tell you guys a secret, okay? If you have Florida pumpkins, you don't carve them. You can put them out. You can put them out and leave them out, and they're fine. But when you carve them, that's when they go to shit. So you usually carve those like 3 or 4 days before Halloween. But you can like put your pumpkins out and leave them out the whole time.
I think I'm just gonna paint mine.
Actually, that was what we did when the kids were little, so that like they didn't, have to play with knives. But we did a lot of pumpkin painting.
That's the best.
And
That's the best part.
And it would stay.
Here's a knife. You can't
for like
cut
3 or
yourself
4
with
weeks
that.
out on the porch.
Nice.
It's
I'll have
possible.
to try that then.
It happened.
We read a lot of different stuff, like like hacks and shit that's supposed to like make the pumpkin last longer if you carve them, but it doesn't
There's
work.
no point down here. It just melts. It literally it turns into a Halloween like scary decoration by like
it's
midday
it's
Halloween.
gross and it like smells bad.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of smelling
Carve
bad,
it and then dip it. Dip it in resin.
No, I can't use resin. Not anymore. It's sad.
Oh,
My eyes swell shut.
that's not good.
Not worth it. Not worth it.
So what's Roland doing?
I think everyone's pooping.
Pooping?
Yep, Roland
I
said he
don't
was
remember
gonna poop.
reading that.
He was gonna. Well, I can tell you right now. Eddie carried Susanna down the embankment and popped her behind a stand of laurel bushes to do her necessary. Jake was 60 or 70 yards east in a grove of birches. Roland said he would use the remedial strip to do his morning necessary. So that's everyone pooping.
Thank you.
Not wrong.
There's kind of a bit of a like revelation here between Eddie and Susanna, and Eddie says something like how he was almost relieved when he got to the end of the story because he thought Roland was going to tell them that he killed Susan himself just for the tower, and then Susanna's kind of like, but that's what he thinks he did. Don't you get it? Like that's what the whole point of the story was. Like that's what he was telling us. Is that's exactly what he thinks he did.
His mind's very black and white. There's no, you were just as that. You were. Either he did or didn't do it, and he doesn't believe that he didn't do it. He doesn't believe that it wasn't intentional. He thinks, he's very serious about this thing. That like, he's a fuck up, and he deserves to the life that he does.
His self-esteem is shit.
For him,
little bit.
especially with the way that he loses his companions, he just sees it as like she was the first sacrifice of many.
I think it's best for him to think of it that way, or else it would really fuck with him more than it already does. Like, it already
Which
fucks
already
with
fucks
him.
with him.
Well,
Yeah.
This is when he talks about like what else happened when he was in the ball. He mentions he's like seeing the fall of Gilead, the triumph of the good man. He said that even with like what they did with blowing up the tankers and get rid of all those men and stuff, it really only put them back about 20 months. Less than 2 years is how long they ended up delaying his war. He also saw that there was supposed to be someone trying to assassinate his father. He talks about also seeing shoes when he was traveling in the ball, and like lots and lots of other stuff. It's a kind of an ongoing conversation. There's one
They're
more
asking
story.
questions and shit.
Yeah, lots of questions. There is one more story. Trying to see, didn't they find like a newspaper, or is that a little further in?
I think they
A little
did.
further in.
I thought they did. Oh yeah, it is further in because they already.
Oh, here we go. There's a note left under the wiper blade on the driver's side of a parked camper. And it says, "The old woman from the dreams is in Nebraska. Her name is Abigail." Then down at the bottom it said, "The dark man is in the west, maybe Vegas." Now that is one of the classic Stephen King crossover bits where you kind of catch overlapping pieces from other stories. They're in Kansas right now. And when they first got out of Blaine the Mono, in the before Roland started telling his story, there was newspapers and headlines and different places where it was pretty much talking about how the whole nation was pretty much dead from the super flu. There was a I believe it's that there was some spray paint that said the Dark Man. There was some allusion to Randall Flagg. A lot of kind of crossover from another book that Stephen King wrote called The Stand. If you haven't read and or watched any of that, it's very good. It's a post-apocalyptic kind of viral outbreak, good versus evil showdown. And those are characters. Abigail and the Dark Man are both from that story. And he's notorious for a few stories actually overlapping. That's also part of the afterword. Once we get there, we'll discuss that too. Jake asked about Shimi, who ended up showing up at Gilead just before the Year's End Fair. So he followed them out of Mages as well. Very cool stuff there. The next chapter is called Shoes in the Road, and guess what they find in the road? You guessed it, shoes. Shoes. Red shoes. They've also been getting closer and closer to this palace off in the distance. The Thinny is kind of being a Thinny.
Trouble in the road.
Doing Thinny stuff. Making it hard for them to think straight even. But they find these awesome shoes, and everyone's got a pair. Even Oi has 2 pairs because he has 2 pairs of feet.
I wish bumblers were real, because I totally want one. They sound so fucking cool.
Especially because they can talk. It's crazy.
Sorry.
At this point, they don't put the shoes on, which I think is. I don't know. Wouldn't you at least try them on? I don't know.
Those shoes ain't made for walking, but why would you take them?
It wasn't necessary. It wasn't time yet.
It's at this point that we're also seeing a little bit of another crossover here. It starts with it obviously being Kansas and the way that Roland was describing what was happening inside of the ball. The correlation between Rhea of the Coos and our very own Wicked Witch of the West. When they start talking about the Wizard of Oz, Roland sees a lot of similarities. And let's see.
Roland's telling about him, and then Eddie and Susanna's like, "Oh shit, that's like so and so."
Yes, it's like one of those things where like Roland's always been like very hungry for just parts of their world, and when they start talking about this story that's like closely related to like what's going on with them, he's very interested, and he makes them tell him all of the stories. The Tin Woodsman, the Cowardly Lion, the Scarecrow, Dorothy, Toto, like, and not only those, but also the books that he wrote after the original, like Wizard of Oz. We know all about it. But one of the main things that they're correlating here is those ruby red shoes that they have. As they're getting closer and closer to this palace, things become, at least to me, it would just be surreal. Like, I don't know. I'm sure we've all seen the same Wizard of Oz movie. If you just imagine like the Emerald City sitting across I-70 in the middle of Nebraska, or Kansas, and you just keep getting closer and closer, and like these things are getting like more and more real. Like they mention as they get closer, they can hear like the snap of the pennants, and they can see like shimmering lights as they're moving. They also see a symbol on the pennant, and it's the crazy eyeball. Jake says it's the mark of the Crimson King. It's really his sigil, not John Farson's. He didn't know how he could know that, but he did because Jake is touched. They all get kind of a bad vibe from the place. As they get closer and closer, they can see there's like an outer wall and then like a gate. Boom, look at the bars of the gate. Look very closely. I thought this was very, very cool, and I'm constantly trying to make correlations, different bars of this rainbow and different types of stories. But there's, I think, what did he say? In the yellow, he's got really close to the yellow bar and started looking in there, and it was like looking at schools of fish in an aquarium, and
Oh yeah, one had horses, did it not?
yeah, the pink one did.
Yes.
The pink one had horses. They were looking at all the different ones. Some of them were like fish people, some of them were like birds. It was all very specific to the color. Jake tried to check out the color for the black bar, but he said that he couldn't make anything out, even though he kind of knew, even if he couldn't see it, he kind of knew there's something there, and it didn't feel very nice to him.
Mm-hmm.
How do they open the gate? I thought this was pretty neat.
There's no place like home.
They all put their shoes on and clicked their heels 3 times and said the rhyme.
Oh wait. You hear a wah wah
Yeah,
wah wah.
it's not quite right. So then they have to like make sure Oi puts his shoes on and have Oi click his heels too.
I mean, obviously, he talks.
They
Sure.
had to help him.
Flipped him over on his back.
All I can think of is like a truss turkey. You know what I mean? Oh my god.
So they get
That's what
the gate
looks
open.
like.
Everyone's wearing red shoes. It's really funny. They find a newspaper that has probably the best story ever written by any news organization known to man.
Blah blah blah.
Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Bad is good. All the stuff's the same. Good is bad.
It was so funny hearing that on the audiobook. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
he
wonder how
did
many
some
takes
pain.
it.
He just said every fucking blah 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 on there.
I know. I wonder how many takes it took to get through that without laughing your ass off.
Well,
and then Tree is one of
yes,
the
turkey, cooked goose, all the stuff's the same. Blaine is a pain.
That is the truth.
Below the story was a picture of Roland, Eddie, Susanna, and Jake crossing the actual courtyard that they're standing in, and the caption read, "Tragedy in Oz. Travelers arrive seeking fame and fortune, find death instead."
Very funny. It's like having that perfect stalker.
But
In the moment.
it just seems so small, though, right? Like, it's almost like a jab. Like it's like it doesn't.
Yeah, it's a jest at him.
Yeah, like it's like a joke, really. It's a another little poke here. As they make their way to the front, of course, there's the sign that says, "Bell out of order, please knock." That's from the movie. The door opens because they say screw this shit and they're just gonna go in. Eddie's a little worried, asking, "Do we have to do this?" And Roland says, "If we want to get back to the beam, I think so." Once they make it to the inside, of course, we have another giant illusion, almost exact, I would say exact replication of the movie set where the wizard talks to Dorothy and the travelers. Jake hears a voice first that kind of drives him a little mad. He hears the voice of Blaine, and he thinks to himself that they didn't actually kill Blaine, and Blaine's not dead, and it's
He freaks the fuck out.
yeah, he really loses it.
I think he has a little bit of trauma from that experience, just a little bit.
No one's fooled.
Eddie even says something about it too.
No one's fooled. They run through this weird Wizard of Oz kind of back and forth. And then Oi does what Oi does, which is what Toto does.
I thought it was Toto.
Which is pulls the curtain back on the man, and it ends up being our best friend, David Quick's grandson, Mr. Andrew Quick himself, the TikTok man,
fucking lovers.
as an absolute almost walking corpse of a person here. Jake, of course, has a reaction. I'm not sure if it's like his age showing here, but he's letting a lot of the stuff get to him. Oi also is not happy.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget, Jake was scarred by this dude. He
That's
last dealt with him.
That's correct, yeah.
Yep.
He thought he was done.
Yep.
I mean, he was already freaking the fuck out because of Blaine.
Yep.
Well, he almost died like twice in a row. He went from one shitstorm to another. So I really can't blame him on that one.
I mean, he still hasn't.
Well,
recovered.
just when we think worse can't get worser, we have Mr. Man himself show up. He says, "Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. My friend Andrew is having another in a long series of bad days, poor boy. I suppose I was wrong to bring him out of Lud, but he just looks so lost." And then the man tittered. We've known people to titter, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
We've been tittered upon before.
It was titillating.
It was titillating.
Before we get into this, I want to ask the group something. Why did Stephen King do this?
The Wizard
Why
of
did
Oz
he-
section.
Why? Yes. Why? Does anybody have any correlation to he's done this before? Because I almost think this is the weakest part of the book. I thought the book and the adventure had us moving along and had us really invested in these characters. And he takes us almost into a farcical Wizard of Oz scene where he reveals what
How the Man in Black is.
Yes.
A little lightheartedness after all that shit that everyone just went through, I guess, isn't terrible. I don't know why he did this, honestly.
That's how the Man in Black,
it-
like how he comes across the entire time.
Well,
that
I
is
think
true.
I think it has something to do with the Finnies. I think it has something to do with where they're at. I think there's an argument to be made that their shared knowledge is manifesting the things around them on the outer bounds of reality here, where time is falling apart.
The other thing that we noticed is that, like, some of the stuff that's happened has also correlated with other books. So it's like, could stories be different universes, or not universes, different things inside of these worlds that they're going to be going through or have gone through?
Charlie the Train, kind of same idea.
Yeah, because Charlie the Train was supposed to be, it was just a book in the world that they're in now because they came across it. And or for other places, it was a book, and other books have been seen to be things that happen or going to, or similarities. So I could see why maybe The Wizard of Oz, because it was something that they all kind of knew about, or at least, the quartet, most of it knew about. And, I guess book became reality for them or whatever. I don't know. It's hard to explain it.
I see a couple different options. And the first one is the one that when I first read through, it kind of made sense because I felt the same way you did, Steve. I almost felt cheated. Because it's like,
it's a little corny.
Yeah, why would you make such a hard reference out of nowhere?
The ruby red slippers, the pulling the curtain, everything.
But I think even Eddie and them mentioned how it's just kind of like weird, Like even Eddie mentions
at it, but
they did.
But it was so close to what was going on here of their memory.
There's a lot of correlation.
I don't think it's any of those things.
You have the Wizard's Rainbow. You have the Wizard of Oz. You have Merlin. There's a lot of different kind of like lore-ish type stories going on here, and I think as I've read through it a couple more times, it started to make sense to me because it's more of a collective vehicle that the party themselves could get into that would drive them back to the beam. And it kind of puts them all back on the same page. It's like a shared narrative that they're comfortable with. And being able to kind of like have that manifested. And also, like, they've been looking at this palace. It's in their way. They're following the path of the beam, and it's like standing right in front of them, right in the middle of the beam. So it's obvious they have to go through it. And I think that it kind of manifested itself as the Wizard of Oz palace because that was a shared kind of story
it didn't look like
for
that from
most
the beginning.
For most of the party, and it was just an easier kind of symbolic vehicle that they could then almost like control the narrative. Like they know that the voice coming from the big smoke isn't the wizard, right? Like they know that there's probably someone like manipulating them at this point, and it was just in my opinion, just an easy way to kind of point everyone back in the right direction and then get them through it. So I don't know. I'll be quite honest. Like I still don't know if I like it per se.
It just seems a little corny.
I think it's all been like arranged by the Man in Black. And go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
The Man in Black is, he's fucked with Roland forever. So now he's fucking with the rest of our quartet.
That would make sense. I could see that.
And it's just his tittering ass way of fucking with everybody.
It just seems
dipping.
Really,
he's like, I can
specific.
see into your mind too. And they were just talking about it before they even saw that it was an emerald hue.
It's been a green palace since before they listened to Roland's story.
It had like a green.
I see it way more simply than that. Like, way more simple than that. I am a fan of Stephen King, so I've read several of his books. And if you're not a person who is a constant reader, then like you wouldn't understand that he cannot write the endings to books, and he grasps for straws sometimes at the end to kind of make it all fit. And like try to bring you some like absolution maybe or something, but really
yeah, he does have a
he's
very
just like
because it's
he's
not the end.
notorious
It's just
for really no, he is notorious for like weird shit happening right at the end of the book that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's
Yeah, that
to
does
his
make
climax,
sense.
and then
he's actually explained
here
it
you
by
go.
saying like stories don't have an end. Like something always happens. There's an end then after everything. And in order for him to like finish writing a book, he needs to put some sort of like some sort of like conclusion at the end of it, so that people feel satisfied when they're done.
But they
And
don't.
they all live miserably after.
Yeah, I agree that it's way out there, but there's also direct correlations in the same sentence about how, you know, he looked and the Wicked Witch was Rhea. And it's like, you know, it's he's trying to make this argument that the zeitgeist is real and it's turning into, it's being manifested maybe as things that are already here, and like maybe is it really the same person, or is it just the same evil? You know, mirror kind of shit. I don't know. I think you could go deep with it. If you
Well,
I
also
actually thought about that with the crystal ball. It's like a mirror kind of thing.
Also, you got to keep in mind every time this Man in Black shows up, he always asks a very specific question.
What was it this time? I didn't catch the question.
Do you cry off?
He's
Every
always
single time
asking
he's there, he's
Roland
like,
to
"Hey,
drop
why don't you
it.
just stop?" Is
Why
now a
is he
good time?
continuing to give him chances? I'm sure if the Man in Black, if he really wanted to, could just say "fuck this" and end it.
Well, but like it
Why is-
almost
That's
almost
a
seems
great
like
question.
every time we see this guy is like he's always saying like, "Hey man, you know, I've been fucking with you from afar, and like now that we're at the fucking crux of the situation, I'm giving you a chance. Like, are you sure you want to keep moving forward? Because if not, like, you know,
It's
you can,
gonna
go, you
hurt.
can go and like live your life, and your friends will be happy, and like everything's gonna be good for you. But if not, you're gonna keep going. Like, there's nothing in your road but death."
And sometimes Roland considers it like, you know, I could do that. And then he goes, "No, I got to keep going."
Well, even at this point, like they end up killing Andrew Quick. They try to kill the Man in Black, Martin, Merlin, Randall Flagg, however you want to call him. They actually try to kill him, and Roland's guns won't fire. So what does he do? He grabs Jake's gun from the other world, and tries to shoot him with that, and he actually does like scare him out. He scares him away. Which is actually really funny.
But he made a mistake by announcing it before he done it. So, like,
Well.
freeze right.
Sometimes Roland can be awfully simple.
Clumsy.
Simple.
Well, Peepop brings up a great question, and that's why doesn't the Supreme Sorcerer just end it? He obviously... Okay, I got a few things. Why doesn't he just end it? And when we get to one of the very last pages, I'll talk about it. But I have an argument
That's
that...
what I've wanted to know is if this dude's supposedly all powerful and has the ability to see all these things and know all these things and control all these things, why hasn't he just said fuck you to Roland and was just been a thorn in his side, other than the fact that he would be bored without him?
I think that
What
he's
if that's the
He's
reason,
like the
right?
dungeon master, or
That
he's
could
the
be the
game
reason.
master. He has
Maybe
set
he
up
thinks-
this elaborate...
Well,
Go ahead.
we're gonna get there. I do want to kind of get this going here. There's one more trick happening here at the very end, and I think that the entire time from the crashing of Blaine through the Susan story up to right now, this is what Roland wanted to tell him. This is the story he's been trying to get to. This is the part where he thinks it makes him unworthy. And you kind of have to know all the stuff that just happened to understand like what ends up happening. And
I
like
remember now.
to be quite frank about it, the ball shows us through the group that Roland is deceived and kills his own mother.
I thought that was unfair.
Very
way
unfair.
that he-
but
The way that he holds himself responsible just seems so unfair.
But just think about it. Like, Homeboy had this ball the whole time. Okay? And, like, the ball tells him on his ride back to his dad that there's all these things happening. Like he sees stuff about John Farson. He gets told stuff about the war going to happen. He's even heard about this plot to assassinate his dad. And he doesn't mention it when he first talks about it, but he knows through the ball who it is. And he's going to this person's apartment to tell her, I know what you're doing. This is your last chance to make different choices and move on. Otherwise, I think he was going to do it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of like the ball's last bit of revenge. The last part of the tale there is.
But as they say, the ball loves misery too. It feeds off it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of its.
He goes to her
different
apartments to find her. He sees in a reflection that Rhea has come and snuck up on him. He turns around and blasts her, and then he comes to and realizes that it was his mom. But it was also Rhea. Like that's what happened. He kills his mother with his father's gun. And as they're going through this, I'm trying to find the right. Somewhere where it said it.
Yeah, because our quartet is in a memory.
Right, they're traveling in the ball as well, but like after they get out of the ball, he tells them like, "You guys were there. I didn't remember until just now, but when that actually happened, you guys were there and you watched it." Which is kind of a weird time travel paradox loop, but you know, like why not throw one of those in there too, right?
Yeah, why not? It's got everything else.
I think that is the important part of like Roland's story. Like he had to tell about where the ball came from and him just becoming a man and like all the stuff that kind of led up to that, so that you would have enough context to understand that it's like, I think that was the whole point, right? Like that was the whole reason why Ka sent him there. That was the whole reason why any of this happened, is because the ball was after him.
I think it also shows his humanity. I think because before everyone believed that he just didn't give a shit about anyone that he allowed to die or killed. Like he just didn't give a shit. And that's what I kind of assumed in the beginning. And then when Roland's story about like what happened with his mother and everything else showed that it hurt him. Like all of it hurt him. Like he did it, but it still hurt. You know what I mean? And it still fucked with him. And I think it kind of showed his humanity as to why he is the way he is now. And the fact that he does care in his own way, but he still has a job to do. Like it wasn't like he just didn't give a shit about no one. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of showed his humanity. I think this whole story, in the end, showed them that he's not some cold-blooded, cold-hearted, not give a shit monster. That maybe they didn't think he was a monster, but they just didn't think he'd like, oh, it's only about your tower. No, you don't give a shit at all. But he does. He does.
I think they kind of alluded to that, and also in the drawing of the 3 after he got fingers chopped off and the infection, was that he always kept on referring back to Jake, how it always bothered him.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Homeboy's definitely got a conscience, and he's been tortured by his choices probably his whole life. Like pretty much after this whole thing happened when he was young, like his whole life has just been these kinds of choices.
Mm-hmm.
And you really catch like kind of just the beginning of them for now. As they're walking after this whole encounter, after they get out of the ball, they pretty much wake up past the palace.
I don't think they remember even walking.
Or how long it took them to get like from one place to the other. They just kind of wake up.
But they had muddy boots.
And they had a chicken drumstick.
Yeah, there's also some food packed up as well.
And they don't know who packed these lunches.
Right, yeah. Eddie said it's the keeper fucking elves.
I love Eddie.
Yeah, he's my favorite.
Okay, here's my tie-in. You know who the Keebler fucking elf is?
Who?
It's the old people, and it's probably Randall Flagg. I think he's one of the old people. Whoa.
I think it's someone completely different.
What
But
do you
I
think?
can't tell you.
We'll find out later. To be
Was it the
continued.
Ghoulies?
Dun, dun, dun.
Hang on, where are you?
Were they
There you are.
royally fleshed?
I'm excited to read more of this book.
Oh yeah.
But that deal with Susan just seemed to take fucking forever. And then it was like, oh, and the book's done. Like in the audiobook, it just took fucking forever for the whole Susan part. And then the next part was like maybe an hour's worth, maybe an hour and a half's worth of listening. And it's like, and we're done. I was like, what the fuck? It felt like he took a really long time to describe it all the way up until the end. And then he's like, and here's the end of the book. That's it.
We are going to get lots of those, and here's the end of the book, because...
And it drove me nuts. I'm like, fuck.
Do you remember how the last one ended? We were in a train barreling towards the end of our road with no hope in sight. So...
We were climaxing.
That was the interesting part about the whole Wizard of Oz thing, because they're talking about Blaine's voice. You're going, how can this be? What's going on? How is this connected? What's this all about?
Right.
And then it's all just mind fucking.
We were all fucked up like Jake.
Yeah, we're all fucked up going, how could this be? This train died. Well, who's controlling
I
the
didn't
train?
think-
Who's running the machines?
Exactly.
Well, they eat their chicken leg, they thank the Keebler elves, and they move on towards the Dark Tower, walking along the path of the beam. That's the end of the book. There is a little bit of an afterword here. Was there anything interesting you guys caught in the afterword?
Oh, I like the bit where Stephen King apologizes for writing about young love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the part where he talks about how he wrote... see, the scene where Roland bests his old teacher Court and goes off to Royster in the less savory section of the Gilead was written in the spring of 1970.
Yeah.
The one in which Roland's father shows up the following morning was written in the summer of 1996.
Oh, man.
That's like 20-something years later. So he was like apologizing for changing it like a little bit. I think because like in the first one, it was like he sent him out like that day.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I think the point
And
that
then,
he's
like-
making is there's been about 30 years between, and like the 19-year-old who wrote that first part thought he understood love, like someone who's experienced young love firsthand right away could have maybe written the rest of that story, but the 30 years in between he spent married and like understands a different type of love. So he was saying like, if I mess that shit up, oh fucking well.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's where you get the fever dream Wizard of Oz escape moment.
Yeah,
It was like
fuck over it.
30 years later.
Yes.
It's been a long time. I'm old. Leave me alone. Let me fucking do my book. Not really, but.
I mean, you can even see a difference in writing styles between the Gunslinger and the second book.
Oh
for
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We very much have enjoyed that.
You
Yeah,
can
you-
see
you know.
you could tell the experience difference between it.
Book 4 done.
That's my least favorite. Least favorite.
Yeah.
Number 4 is my least favorite.
That one's
so far.
hard.
Your least favorite,
I
really?
really enjoyed it.
Okay, I will say I thought we were gonna have more time with Susanna. Like I sincerely for a while thought, okay, she didn't die there. She met up again, and like she died like later on. Like this is before we got farther into the thing. I honestly thought Susanna was gonna be around more because he was so in love with her. I didn't realize it was just like a fling for like a few months, and then she got burned up.
Literally.
I was like, oh, okay, that isn't what I was expecting.
I like this book for the history and lore that it brings in and some of the new knowledge about the Dark Tower and its connections. I don't necessarily care for the story until we get to the ball part. I really enjoy the Wizard's Rainbow as a theme, knowing there's more of them out there and they all do some really malevolent shit. That's kind of cool.
I do
No.
feel like. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That
I
was
was
it.
just,
Did anybody
Uh,
get any kind of correlation with the Palantir from the Lord of the Rings series?
Yeah.
There's a lot of like kind of evil shit happening with crystal balls, and I guess like in any story with a crystal ball, it's kind of
Yeah.
always been
I
used
feel
to
like-
someone's detriment.
I feel like out of that story, the most important part, even though he's telling the story of Susanna to them, I feel like the ball was the more important part of the story than his romance with Susanna. Honestly. Like, yeah, his romance with Susanna was like a key thing whenever he lost her. But I feel like the ball out of all of that was the most important part of that whole retelling.
I wonder how that correlates into that when the ball started coming around and doing a lot of main things. That's also when Roland kind of got his head back too, because he was kind of in La La Land. He was separated from his friends. He was kind of doing things that weren't him. And then once the ball started to be a larger part of the story, we kind of went, okay, Roland's back now. Now things are going to happen. Now let's move this, because the story was in neutral for quite a while. They were banging around for a year and nothing was really happening. And then we were waiting for the fall. So
yeah,
we felt the way he wanted us to feel about it. Maybe is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think I enjoyed it a little more just because of the time of year that it is and our win.
Yeah, I think it lined up right with. Yeah, it lined up right with us, to be honest.
Yeah.
The reap is coming. Charge tree.
Not so much here in Florida. Nothing really dies down here for the fall.
We have to ship in our pumpkins from other states.
The full moon.
Yeah, we
Burn
can't
some
even.
scarecrows down there.
We're looking into getting the local area treated for mosquitoes, because not even them bastards died during the fall here.
I mean, here in Kansas,
that's kind of sad. So you guys can't go to like pumpkin patches and all that.
We have
there's
pumpkin
no
patches.
They're banned from them.
They're just at churches.
They're not allowed.
They're at churches, and it's like all the pumpkins are shipped in.
And there is no such thing as apple picking down here, because there is no apple orchards at all.
So
it doesn't get cold enough. It sucks. Let me tell you what. As a New Yorker, it fucking sucks.
Y'all can come down here, pick some apples.
Yeah, we have 2 orchards in our town. So.
Finish up the peaches.
I'm from a farming area. We have this area that has these particular type of apples you can't find anywhere else, called snapdragons.
Those are delicious.
And they're so fucking good. They're almost like a Pink Lady and a Granny Smith apple put together. They're really good eating apples. They're so fucking good.
So sweet and sour.
They're not as tart as a Granny Smith, which makes them even
not
better.
as tart. Exactly. They're really good.
Well, you got to make room for the sweet.
I have been homesick. Like every fall, I'm homesick because I'm like, everything just doesn't even die. Everything dies around January, February. Like all the leaves are gone, and then like March, everything's back. That's it.
One thing I want to ask the group too, that now that we finish this Wizard in Glass and we kind of almost know why he's going for the tower and things like that. Do we still care that he's going for the tower?
I feel like
are these next books very important to that story for us, to whether or not we continue or not?
We still have to find out what happened with the rest of his quartet to begin with, like what happened to them, and the other choices that he's had to make to get there. And I honestly feel like there's more to it than just the tower. Like, where are the other wizard classes? Is the Man in Black the only one pulling strings? What happened to some of these other people? You know, I'm interested to see, and also like what happens once you get to the tower. What do they have to do to make sure it doesn't decompose more than it already has, or whatever it's going to do, and such.
So I
have a theory.
I do want to point out real quick that this next book is not a let's learn more about the Dark Tower book. It is
another memory.
It's
We're
like
going back into neutral.
It's like a fireside bedtime story.
Neutral.
So
I've not read this
car
one.
Isn't moving.
Huh?
I've not read
200
this
pages.
One that is next.
It's still setting the scene then, so it's more scene setting, but not really for the tower, but more so.
It's going to be young Roland, starting where we stopped already.
Okay. How far are we reading this time?
Oh shit!
Not too much this time, just because.
Need to go grab that book. Hang on.
Just because with the gap that we had and so much that we read at once, I kind of forgot what was what without you guys saying something.
Can you grab our
Where
book?
the shit did I put it?
On the bookshelf right
a major motion picture. They're still printing it on this book, which would have nothing to do with the movie. From what you guys say about the movie. A major motion picture.
This was written. Check the copyright. This was written the latest. This is the most recent Dark Tower book.
One.
Oh, this one is, yes? Wow.
What were you saying?
I was saying if comment about defending the Dark Tower, well, we just have to make sure that if it's based off the movie, the people that can take their faces off, just gotta blow up their machine.
Blow up the machine, man.
Alright, if you have this copy... Oh, sorry, let me turn this back on. You have this copy right here.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure... It will be the same page for you, Ken, but page 106.
And always has the wrong books.
It's where this chapter starts. The Wind Through the Keyhole.
That's the book.
106.
I already listened to that, or just you guys mentioned that before.
It is paid. We got to read up to 106.
Yes.
Or whatever the hell you put into the Discord for the
Same page.
audiobook.
I think I have this one on the audiobook too, so I'll upload that.
I promise not to finish
Nah, I can find it online. There's like this one place that you can do it. Only problem is you can't download it. It's free to listen to through a browser though, so if you guys tell me what to listen up to, I can
pretty
find
sure
it.
that I have it, but if not, post the link in the chat too.
Will do.
But yeah, it'll be. You want to read the first? I think it's called. I think it starts out called Stark Blast, and then
Forward. There's a little bit of a forward in there.
yeah, a little bit, just to kind of put you in the right spot. And then it's going to be the Skin Man Part 1. And read to The Wind Through the Keyhole. It's pretty much the first 100 pages.
Yep.
Like I said, I will make sure that I have that posted if you guys don't have the book.
This is for Robin Firth and the gang at Marvel Comics. Ashita Kitty.
Robin Firth wrote the Concordia. That's a book you can pick up. It's like the Dark Tower Dictionary. I don't have it. I used to have it.
I'm afraid to get anything that's extra until I've read it because I don't.
Smart.
I'll end up just flipping through to the wrong page and be like, oh, well now I gotta know how it happens.
I didn't even want to really read it because I didn't want to see these sentences.
She was hired to keep all the stories straight.
She's the one connecting the web.
I think on the website she calls herself the Lore Warden.
The Lorden.
Warden.
The Warden. This book. You know how they all have a specific word in the beginning?
Yeah. This one is not.
I'm gonna call it Stark Blast.
I don't know. I got a flame on mine.
Yeah, Flame. That's the publisher.
Just His flame.
Simon
Is
and
it
Schuster.
Scribner? Is it a Scribner flame?
Simon and Schuster.
Yeah, Scribner.
Simon and Schuster.
I'm gonna get ready to get off because I gotta be up early for my kids have picture day tomorrow, so I gotta make sure I get up earlier for getting them ready and stuff. So
Have a good night.
good night, guys.
Good
Guys,
night.
thank you, Pops.
Good night, P-Pops.
It's an imprint of Simon and Schuster, okay?
Do we still see
Simon
Roland as a
Schuster.
hero?
I
What'd you
see
say?
someone that needs a bunch of fucking therapy.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
To say the least.
Or he might need
Is
to
Roland
take
still a
little bit of
hero?
wheatgrass himself.
Oh,
That was
Roland's still here. No.
A hero to who? To Min? To Susan.
Or do we see him as
2
more of like
weeks.
a Greek tragic hero?
Definitely a tragic hero.
Yeah.
I would say he's an
Yeah.
anti-hero in that way as well.
He's an obsessed fool. I still don't quite know why he's going for the Dark Tower, and his whole life has just been doing this.
all of his values are being tested, all of his values are being broken, it is wearing him down.
I can't wait to be on the other side of this and look back on it and have a complete picture. Because right now,
Same.
At the beginning
I
of
agree.
drawing of the 3, he had physical loss. And then he lost a little bit of his mind. And he continued to lose his mind after he got it back. And now he's having an emotional break.
Yeah, like book 2 is like the physical reckoning. Book 3 is like the mental reckoning. Book 4 would be like the spiritual. I gotta tell you guys, I'm kind of a jerk.
Let me just tell you how all this shit started, okay?
I think it also shows a growth or a building of trust towards his friends. Because really, we met him like towards the end of Gunslinger and Drawing of the 3 that he was basically he was
soulless
starved,
monster.
dehydrated, basically just done. And he started building up a new set of friends, and now he's slowly able to start trust others. So maybe it's just like you guys were saying, it's a break, but he's also needing some much needed repairs.
He's learning because
I think he's
we don't
definitely
know
learning.
we don't know how long it's been since Elaine and Cuthbert died.
So there's actually that part at the end there where he mentions the centuries that Martin's been after him. Centuries.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that means at least 200 years. Could be a lot more than that, but the minimum centuries would be a plural of century. Minimum 200 years. Time is a face on the water, and there's a real, like, you kind of get like the beginning of a feeling of like these guys have kind of been at each other for a long time.
Like the Immortals.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's almost like they're concepts more than people at this point to me. I kind of
The
view it as
questionably good to bad.
Or just
I
their
was-
their characters are kind
just
of like
forces.
informing that kind of a concept.
I
yeah,
was just
they're
trying to
just.
figure out like, go ahead.
It's all you, man.
I was just trying to figure out like the time gap, the long night he was talking to the Man in Black. Like they mentioned, like he had gray hair, and the Man in Black was basically just bones.
10 years or 50 years, one or the other. Do you
I
guys
don't think
remember?
that was
I
actually
thought it
his
was
bones.
10.
Okay.
I think he just set that
I
up
don't
as
either.
kind of another Man in Black joke.
To fuck with
with
them.
Yeah.
To teeter off in the distance and the
Titter.
horizon.
Titter.
He's teetering. You know he's jumping and dancing around.
Sneak I'll pull you off for that one, but I think there's an argument to be made
About what?
against that. Maybe it was his bones. But
It
I'm gonna
could have
make
been
that
because
here.
he changed and he changed his skin, his face, his name.
I mean, you're right. Like, I don't know for sure if it was or wasn't.
As well, we have Jake, you know, and,
Well, I mean,
and I'll use what we know to verify this. Jake, he dies, yet he still lives. You know, I think there's other worlds than these.
Yes.
So perhaps
If you've read anything in the Talisman story, there is a little bit of like world jumping that happens there, but it's between two different realities. And if you are, the majority of people have a twin on the other side, and as you learn to jump between sides, you pretty much inhabit the body and mind of your twin. Unless, of course, you don't have a twin. Certain people are special, and they don't have a twin. So then, as they jump, their physical body bounces back and forth. So, the concept could very well be that his consciousness is just bouncing between bodies.
That's the power of the gunslingers.
that's the power of Pine Sol.
I'm talking about for the drawing of the 3, like where their bodies physically traversed.
Well, they were using doors too, though.
Yeah.
And as they were using a door, it wasn't the body that went; it was the mind that went, because their bodies would flop back.
It did, but whenever Eddie was in the bar, Roland came out.
Yes, they did go through the doors from the other way. You're right. and not.
And
inside
Roland
someone's
was
line.
in New York
That's true, but he had to be touching Eddie, right?
to get through.
To like actually travel.
Yeah. So Eddie's one of the specials. Roland.
It's possible. It's possible.
This might not be Roland's
form.
mission. Well, that too.
His power
I mean,
level
Well, that'd be
is
good.
over 1,000.
He could use a hand back.
Funny.
Maybe he's being reawakened.
I think as the weather changes and as we are moving forward into the colder season, this next book will fit really well with kind of the vibe of the times.
Of campfires and
I'm
soup.
I'm very excited to like revisit this story. It would only be the third time, so I'm very excited. It is gonna be kind of quick though. I think we're gonna get through maybe 2 sessions, 3 at the most.
Yeah, we can break that second section down, but I mean, it's already a little over a third of the book.
Yeah. It's consider it a ghost story, right? It's kind of a ghost story. Like a campfire ghost story.
Oh, one of the theories I have is that this is just like another King Arthur story, but how he came to be. Because he is from the line of Arthur Eld.
It's true.
So
He does
this
have
is
the
just
blood of kings.
this is sort of like the Return of the King, like the lost king that they've all been waiting for, and Roland is the chosen.
I would say if they had
Possibly.
to choose a king from Midworld, it would have to be Roland. He's the last of his line.
Oh yeah, take a look at River Crossing too. They revered him.
They treated him like a king for sure.
And that was a tradition. That
Right,
was the
guys?
traditional way to treat him.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
I got a
Discussion?
comment, but it's more concerned with earlier's topic about how Stephen King struggles with writing an ending.
Sure.
I felt that with I've been reading a lot of it actually because I got stuck on it with Alan Wake. I thought he did a really good job with the ending of Mr. Mercedes. If anybody's read that one,
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
That one I
He
thought-
does
However-
have some good endings.
He didn't end it though. I mean,
I
like
know.
he ended that series, and he did a great job. But like, what's her face? She's in at least one other.
Yeah.
well, I know
Series.
that there's a sequel to it
Yes, she is.
technically. Like there's a set of it with the detective
There's
and
3 of them. Yeah, it's the end of
psychopathic
Watch.
guy.
Yeah.
that guy's head caved in with a was it a sock full of quarters or
Yeah.
ball?
Yeah.
He does have a few books that I really enjoyed the ending.
Look,
Like-
I don't believe that his endings are bad per se. I just think that for a lot of people, like they like stuff wrapped up in a bow, and
That's me.
when he doesn't give them something wrapped up in a bow, then like his publishers kind of get pissy. So he ends up writing something that maybe is not exactly what he wanted to put there, but he did end it.
Yeah,
I think that's
a
why I
good
like
point.
the short stories better because I think he has more of a way of saying,
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what they say.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
ending it this way.
And then they all died, and then guess what happened?
Or like
I don't
what
know
was it,
either.
The world
Jaunt.
moved on.
What was that one called? The one with like faster than light travel, the Jaunt.
The Jaunt. They're
Yeah,
gonna
the
make
guy's
that.
son was like, I stayed awake the entire time, Dad. It sucked.
It was eternity.
I was like, oh god.
Yeah, they're gonna make that into I think it's like a sci-fi like miniseries. That's a good one.
That would be a good one.
That's a good
And
one.
then there's Quitting Time, which that one was just creepy. For anybody that smokes cigarettes.
Is that about the 5 o'clock people? Yeah.
One of my
No,
guilty
it's about the one where it's the
pleasures
guys-
with Stephen King is the Tommy Knockers.
Tommy
I know
Knockers.
everybody's like, it's his worst book, it's his worst, but I love it. Like, I read that during a weird time in my life, and I just fell in love with that story.
It is a strange tale.
It's so fucking weird.
And it's also like you can tell that it's written about a drunken stupor while he was in a drunken stupor.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I think he's gone on record that there are some books he doesn't even really remember
That's
writing.
the one.
because of the
That's
80s.
the main one. Is that
Yeah,
one right
that
there?
is.
He was so fucked up. He's like,
Like, you can tell he was pretty cracked out. Like, when you,
Cocaine
when
and
you read it,
alcohol,
you're like,
man,
where
yeah.
the hell did this come from? It's really funny.
for sure. All right, guys.
It was
If there's
very
nothing else, I'm
enjoyable.
gonna wrap it up. We've been in here almost 2 hours.
Yes, it's crazy.
This has been a blast.
Don't leave.
I'm hopping off
Why?
Steve?
because
You hate us?
yes, you see my eyes. I've talked and watched way too long.
Oh man,
I'm
sorry.
tired. That's okay.
Okay,
Who out?
I just kicked
Oh.
him. I just kicked him.
I have one more comment.
Go ahead.
Anybody that likes post-apocalyptic literature, After It Happened by Devin C. Ford is a pretty good one.
After it happened, can you post that in the Book Nook channel?
Yeah, I can.
That'd be awesome.
And they have all 7 books on YouTube. That's 45 hours long.
Oh.
And it's not going to last much longer because they pull out audio.
They do that a lot. Modus?
Yeah.
I saw your beautiful face again. Is there a closing statement you want to make?
Yeah. Good luck kicking me because I'm about to leave him.
Get out of here! Turd.
All right. Have a great night.
Good night, man.
Later, bud.
Later.
And for those of you in stream, it was great to see you. It's great to have you. Lots of funsies. We will see you next week, probably. Maybe we'll have a Friday or Saturday night actually happen this next weekend. We'll see. For those of you who are following along, we finished the 4th novel in the Dark Tower cycle. It was called Wizard and Glass. We're moving on to When Through the Keyhole. You can find these books on Amazon or probably your local thrift store.
I found all my fucking books.
You can find lots of them.
I found
everywhere.
Went Through the Keyhole to the end.
Nice. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Hello.